Hello, this is Ramon Martinez. I'm on the train from Bakersfield, California to Sacramento, California, and I'm talking with my train mate here. I'd like you to have a little chance to visit with her. Her name is Dolores Huerta. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. So we've been having a long conversation about the history of Mexicanos in California, and how that impacts on the history of not only California but of the United States, and also what it says about us, about we have been here for so many decades and generations, and yet of course that history is not well known. And then of course we have the whole history of the farm workers movement, which I was very blessed to be a founder of the farm workers union with Cesar Chavez, and I was very blessed to be part of a lot of the history that the farm workers movement made in our United States of America. And there's some good documentaries out there that I would like to recommend. Some of these are available directly from the United Farm Workers, and of course they do have a website, and one of them is called Fighting for Our Lives, and this one tells about the big fight that we had with the Teamsters Union and the growers when in 1973, after we had over 100,000 farm workers under contract in the United States, not only in California, but it extended to Texas, parts of Texas, parts of New Mexico. We had over 1,000 workers in the state of Florida. All of these people under contracts, under union contracts with collective bargaining rights to negotiate their wages. They had a medical plan, pension plans, and from one day to the next, it was almost gone because the Teamsters Union, then under the leadership of Franklin Simmons, came in and signed sweetheart agreements with the growers, and all of our contracts were just taken away from us, almost from one day to the next. We were left with just a few contracts in the vine grape industry, and some food and vegetable industry, but most of the other ones were gone. And it was a very brutal time, and that documentary is called Fighting for Our Lives, and it's available at the United Farm Workers Union. There's another good documentary that was made by the Southern Poverty Law Center called Viva la Causa, and that is another very good documentary because it is told by the people that worked with the farm worker movement, by some of the farm workers, and by many of the volunteers and members of my own family that they were involved in the union also when they were young. But it's got a lot of very good footage of Robert Kennedy in that documentary. A little bit of the history. It's actually a documentary that's been made mostly for schools, and so I would recommend it. It's free. The only thing you have to do is pay the shipping cost. But it's called Viva la Causa, and you can get it from the Southern Poverty Law Center in Montgomery, Alabama. They have a program of videos called Teaching Tolerance, and that's one of the videos that they have. Viva la Causa, the Farm Workers Union with Cesar Chavez. Then, of course, the most recent documentary that was on PBS was American Latinos, which also talks not only about the Farm Workers Union, but about many of the other Latino groups in the United States, and that also I think is a very good documentary that I would recommend to people.
That documentary, I think you're talking about the Latino Americans, Latino Americanos. It's a 6-part series.
Right.
Go ahead. I was going to say, tell me about the parts of the series you thought were the best. That you really liked. Let's say.
Well, of course, the part about the Farm Workers Union I thought was pretty accurate. I thought it was very good. The only thing that they didn't really emphasize in that was the boycott, which was, of course, the way that we were able to finally win collective bargaining agreements for the Farm Workers Union is by boycotting grapes and Gallo wine, and eventually lettuce, and I guess a bunch of other stuff that we boycotted to get the employers to sit down at the bargaining table. So it doesn't really talk about the boycott, which is a very empowering type of strategy that people can use to win victories.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, coming up in a couple minutes will be Mo.
You were talking about Latino Americanos.
And then the other thing it leaves out is when it comes to the farmers movement is about Caesar's fasting that he did, and he did 3 major fasts. One in 1968 for 25 days. The second one was in Arizona for 25 days in 1972, and then his last fast was for 36 days that he did in Dolores, California. Now, there's another documentary that's just come out called Caesar's Last Fast. And in that documentary, which is made by Rick Perez, it does document Caesar's last fast, which was for 36 days. And Caesar's last fast that he did was because of pesticides on our food. And so many of the farmer children that were dying, and not only the children, but the families also were dying of cancer.